The girl in the chamber. The room was cold and quiet, with only the soft hum of machines filling the air. In the center stood a large glass chamber filled with blue light. Inside the chamber was a young alien girl, no older than 16 in human years. Her skin was pale silver. Her hair floated gently as if underwater. Thin, glowing cables were attached to her arms, back, and neck. She looked asleep, but her eyes were open and full of silent pain. No one came to help her. No one spoke to her. She was just a tool a battery made to power the base. This was the hidden power station of the Norex Syndicate, a criminal alien group that used living beings as energy sources. They didn't care who suffered as long as their machines worked. The girl had no name inside the chamber, only a number etched into the glass. But deep inside her mind, she remembered being called Zero once by her mother before she was taken. That memory was the only warmth left in her frozen world. Far away on the edge of the system, a small ship broke through the asteroid belt. The ship was old, patched with scrap, and carried only one man. His name was Daniel, a human mercenary who worked alone. He had picked up a strange signal, a stolen power core used in illegal energy experiments. He didn't expect much. Maybe a broken droid or parts to sell. He followed the trail to a dark planet hidden behind a dying moon. His ship landed near the abandoned facility, half buried in ash and dust. Daniel stepped out dressed in heavy armor with scanners blinking on his wrist. The base was dead from the outside, but something pulsed underneath. He walked through broken doors, past rusted machines and old bloodstains. His breath was calm, his eyes sharp. He had seen places like this before, but something felt different. It wasn't just a tech dump. It was too quiet, too clean, too guarded. As he moved deeper, he found sealed doors with fresh locks. His scanner picked up faint life signals below, one pulse weak but steady. It didn't match any machine. He hacked the door and slipped in quietly. The hallway led him down into the power chamber. That was where he saw her Zyra. Her body glowed softly in the tank, her face pale and tired, but still alive. Daniel froze for a second, staring at her, then looked at the energy readings. The machines were draining her slowly, using her life force to power the whole station. Her eyes moved and locked onto his. They were full of fear, but also hope. She mouthed something, but no sound came through the glass. Help. Daniel moved fast. He checked the system and found the release controls. It was risky. The moment he shut down the power, the alarms would trigger. But he didn't care. He tapped a command into his wrist. A soft hiss filled the room as the cables disconnected from her body. The glass door slid open and Zyra fell forward. He caught her gently in his arms. Her body was warm but weak, her breath soft and shallow. Her eyes looked up at him. She tried to speak, but her voice was broken. He whispered to her, "You're safe now." Then the alarm screamed through the base. Red lights flashed. Doors opened. The sound of boots echoed through the hallway. Daniel pulled his rifle from his back and stood in front of Zyra. He had no time to ask questions. He fired at the guards, who came in quick and loud. His aim was perfect, clean and fast. 3 down in seconds. Zyra struggled to stand, but her legs were shaking. Daniel picked her up and ran through the back exit. More soldiers followed, but he moved like a shadow, ducking past corners, firing when needed. He reached the hangar bay where his ship waited. He slammed the door shut and flew off before the station could lock onto him. Inside the ship, he laid her on a soft chair and gave her water. She drank slowly, still afraid, but her eyes never left his. For the first time in years, she felt a strange feeling. Safety. Daniel looked at her for a long moment and then asked, "What did they do to you?" She opened her mouth slowly and whispered in a voice that cracked with pain, "I was their battery." He blinked, then nodded slowly, "Not anymore." As the stars passed outside the window, Zyra closed her eyes again, but this time not from pain. This time she slept, because someone had finally come for her. Someone had broken the chamber and carried her out. Someone who didn't treat her like a thing, someone human. And somewhere deep in her body, something began to change. Her energy wasn't gone. It was growing again. But this time, it was waking for her, not for them. The machines didn't own her anymore. The power inside her was no longer their weapon. It was hers now, and she would never be their battery again. Escaping the cage, Zyra woke up to the hum of a different ship, and for the first time in years, she wasn't in pain. She wasn't floating in cold liquid. She wasn't chained. She was lying on a small bed wrapped in a soft thermal blanket. Her body still ached, but it was a dull pain, not the burning torture she had known for so long. Her eyes fluttered open and adjusted to the dim lights of the cabin. The human man from before sat nearby, cleaning his weapon with careful hands. He didn't look up, but his voice was calm. "You're awake. Good." Zyra tried to sit up. Her muscles trembled, and she winced. He moved quickly and gently helped her rest against the wall. He offered a drink from a metal flask. She hesitated, but something in his face told her it was safe. She took a sip. It tasted like life. He looked at her again. "I'm Daniel. You got a name?" Her throat was dry. She had to force the word out. "Zyra." He nodded once and leaned back in his chair. "You're lucky I found you." Place was crawling with syndicate soldiers. What were they doing to you? She stared at him, unsure what to say. How could she explain what it felt like to be drained every day? To be kept alive only to power weapons and ships? Her voice cracked. I glowed. They used me for energy. I couldn't stop it. Daniel frowned. Not in disbelief, but in anger. Not at her, but at them. "You're a living power source," he said quietly. "But they didn't just harvest your energy. They broke you." Zyra's hands shook. She didn't want to cry. She had forgotten how. But the way he said it, like it was wrong, like she mattered. "You're not going back there," he said firmly. "But they'll come," she whispered. He nodded. "Let them." The ship shuddered. An alert rang out on the console. Daniel moved to the screen and cursed under his breath. 2 small fighter crafts had locked onto them. Syndicate ships. They had tracked his signal. "They found us," Zyra said. Her voice, now trembling. Daniel didn't panic. He pressed a few buttons, activating defensive maneuvers. His ship dove between broken asteroids as the enemy fired plasma rounds behind them. He moved like a seasoned pilot, sharp and fast. Zyra watched in awe. Every move he made was confident. He didn't look scared. He looked focused. "Hold on," he said. The ship twisted sharply and fired back. One of the enemy ships exploded in a flash. The other tried to dodge, but was caught in the debris and spun out. Daniel turned the ship around and sped away before reinforcements could arrive. He landed on a cold, barren moon with no atmosphere. A small underground shelter hidden beneath the surface opened up, and they descended inside. As the door sealed shut, Zyra exhaled slowly. Her body was weak again, but her fear was less inside the shelter. Daniel helped her into a room with soft lights and strange devices. Medical tech. He scanned her body and shook his head. "They damaged you more than I thought. Your cells have been forced to generate energy non-stop. That's why you're glowing." Zyra looked at her hands. Faint pulses of light moved through her fingers like veins made of lightning. She never asked for this. She never wanted this. "I don't want to be a weapon," she whispered. "You're not," Daniel said. "But you need to learn how to control it, or they'll come again." Zyra looked at him with wide eyes. "You'll train me?" He gave her a half smile. "I'll help you survive. Then we'll make them regret what they did." The next few days were hard. Her body needed time to heal, but Daniel didn't let her sit in fear. He showed her how to breathe through the energy spikes, how to ground herself when her power flared. At first, she burned the walls by mistake, cracked the floor with a single step, but slowly she began to feel the rhythm of her own strength. Daniel modified the ship. He added shielding tech that could handle her energy if needed. He crafted gloves that helped regulate her flow. Every day he reminded her, "You are not a tool. You are a person." Zyra didn't know why his words mattered so much. Maybe because no one had ever said them before. Maybe because he didn't ask for anything in return. Then one night while Daniel was outside checking the sensors, Zyra felt something. A pull in the air. She stepped into the main chamber and reached out. Her body lit up brighter than ever before. A piece of broken metal on the floor started to float. The air shimmered around her. She wasn't just glowing. She was absorbing energy from the very room. Daniel returned and stopped in the doorway. His eyes widened as he watched her. "You're doing that on your own?" Zyra turned to him, her face glowing in soft white light. "I'm not afraid anymore." He smiled. Then they're in trouble. Zyra stood taller now. She was still healing, but inside her something had changed. For years she had been drained. Now she was full. And the ones who used her would soon learn what happened when a living battery refused to be used again. The hidden power. Zyra sat on the cold floor of the underground shelter, her eyes closed and her palms open beside her knees. A dim glow circled her fingers like fireflies orbiting her skin. She wasn't forcing it. The energy was simply flowing, now, not exploding, not hurting. It obeyed her like it understood her mood. She breathed slow and deep. For the first time in her life, the power didn't feel like a curse. It felt alive inside her. Like it belonged to her. Across the room, Daniel watched her in silence. He had seen things in this galaxy that broke stronger men. He had seen what power could do, how it corrupted, twisted, and destroyed. But Zyra didn't hunger for control. She didn't want to be feared. All she wanted was peace. And still, he knew. She was becoming something dangerous, something the Syndicate would never let walk free. He tossed her a small glowing cube. She caught it without opening her eyes. The cube pulsed, reading her energy level. When it turned from red to green, Daniel let out a short whistle. "That's faster than yesterday." Zyra opened her eyes and looked at him. She was tired, but a quiet strength had settled into her voice. "I didn't push it. I just asked it to come." Daniel raised a brow. "You asked?" She nodded. "Before, I was forced. My body was turned into a machine. But this feels like listening. Like the power is breathing with me." Daniel crouched beside her and unrolled a small map on the floor. A flickering hollow showed dots scattered across nearby star systems. "They're hunting you. Reports are coming in. Pirates, bounty hunters, even fake distress signals trying to lure us out. The Syndicate's getting nervous." Zyra stared at the blinking dots. Each one was someone willing to trade her pain for profit. Her fingers tightened into fists. "What do they want from me now? I'm not in the chamber anymore." Daniel pointed to the core of the map. "This," he said. "They're building something. A central reactor. Word is they want to power entire war fleets. And they need living batteries to do it. They'll take more kids like you. They'll fill rooms with them." Zyra's lips parted, horrified. "Children?" Daniel nodded grimly. "That's what they did before. And they'll do it again. Unless someone stops them." Silence filled the room. Zyra looked down at her glowing hands. Her power had once been used to hurt others. Now it could be used to stop that. But doubt lingered inside her. "What if I lose control again?" she asked. "What if I hurt someone? You?" Daniel didn't flinch. He reached into his belt and pulled out a black ring-shaped device. "This is a suppressor," he said. "If it ever gets too much, you wear this. It'll calm your energy instantly." He placed it in her hand gently. "But I don't think you'll need it." Zyra looked at him, her voice soft. "Why do you trust me?" Daniel shrugged and leaned. Back against the wall. Because I've seen monsters. You're not one. The next day, Daniel showed her how to defend herself. Not with weapons, but with speed and instinct. She didn't need to shoot lasers. Her energy could push enemies away, freeze circuits blind sensors. Every lesson brought more confidence. Every failure brought more patience. She learned to move with purpose, not panic. They sparred near the edge of a frozen moon. Wind howled across the surface, but Zyra's focus never wavered. She could feel the magnetic pull of the stars around her. Her body was becoming part of something larger. That night, as they rested inside the ship, Zyra heard a small sound from the communicator. Static, then a faint voice. "This is Child Unit 7. Please, help us." Daniel bolted upright and activated the screen. A weak hologram appeared. An alien boy with dim glowing veins chained inside a similar chamber like Zyra's. Her heart dropped. "It's real," she whispered. Daniel's jaw clenched. "They're not hiding anymore. They want to provoke us." She looked at him, her voice no longer soft. "Then let's give them what they want." He didn't argue. They traced the signal to a cold desert planet on the edge of Syndicate space. Zyra prepared herself not just with strength but with purpose. This time, she wouldn't be rescued. She would be the one breaking the chambers they boarded the ship. Zyra stood by the doorway, her hand touching the wall gently. The lights pulsed, in rhythm with her heartbeat. She was not afraid. Not anymore. Daniel looked at her with quiet respect. "You ready?" Zyra's eyes lit up like stars. "Let's bring them down." And with that, the ship disappeared into hyperspace, not just carrying a human mercenary and a glowing girl, but a new kind of storm the Syndicate wasn't ready for wanted, across the stars. The name Zyra was now whispered in fear across black markets, security channels, and bounty forums. The Syndicate had put her face on every screen in the outer systems. Her picture flickered with the warning. Extremely dangerous. Energy enhanced. Human companion hostile. A reward was offered that could buy a moon. Zyra sat quietly in the corner of the stolen ship as Daniel adjusted the navigation controls. The glow in her veins had dimmed to a steady silver. She was learning to hide it. She had to. Every ship that passed could be a hunter now. "Your price just tripled," Daniel said with a grin that didn't reach his eyes. "I feel underpaid." Zyra gave a tired smile. "I'm not even worth that much." He looked at her. "You're not for sale." She didn't answer. She knew what he meant, but deep inside, she still struggled with the idea. Her life had always been about value, to them, what she could give, what she could power. But Daniel never looked at her like a weapon. He taught her things without expecting anything back. Outside, the ship drifted in the shadow of a ruined station. They were meeting an old contact of Daniel's, an information broker who knew things the Syndicate wanted buried. As they docked, Zyra touched her gloves to steady her pulse. Daniel noticed. "Don't worry. This guy hates the Syndicate as much as we do." "But will he hate them more than he fears them?" Zyra asked. Daniel paused, then nodded slowly. "Let's find out." Inside the station, the air was thick with smoke and static. Alien voices echoed through half-broken corridors. They found the broker, a squat, green-scaled creature with cybernetic eyes, sitting in a chair that spun too much. "Daniel," the broker hissed. "You brought the glowing girl." Zyra crossed her arms. "She has a name." The broker chuckled. "Ah, yes. Zyra. You're famous. I've already deleted 5 tracking beacons from your ship's trail. They're desperate to catch you." Daniel leaned in. "Tell me what they're building." The broker hesitated, then tapped his headgear. A projection bloomed in the air, an orbital station in early construction. Rings of power coils wrapped around a dark core. Inside that core, children. Over 24. Zyra gasped. She saw them curled inside small chambers like hers, their bodies trembling as energy was pulled from them. The pain in their eyes was something she understood too well. They call it the furnace. The broker said, "It's a prototype. The syndicate believes it will make them unstoppable." Daniel's voice dropped. "Where is it?" The broker hesitated again. "Why? What can you two do? You're one human and a girl who glows." Zyra stepped forward. Her hand lit up, just enough to crack the floor beneath her feet. The lights above flickered. "I can do more than glow." The broker flinched. "All right. It's near the Aurochs rift, but you didn't hear it from me." They left quickly. Daniel didn't trust the place to stay quiet. As they undocked, Zyra looked out the viewport. Something had shifted inside her. The images of the captured children played over and over in her mind. She remembered what it was like to scream and have no one hear, to hope someone might come. Daniel was watching her. "You okay?" "No," she said. "But I'm ready." Later that night, while Daniel rested in the back of the ship, Zyra stood alone in the small training room. She raised her hand and focused on the power inside her, not as something to be feared, but as something to guide. She closed her eyes, and suddenly she wasn't in the room anymore. She felt stars. She felt machines. She felt pain. She could sense the furnace, the children. Their cries were like whispers in her blood. The syndicate had no idea what they had awakened. The next day, bounty hunters caught up to them. 2 sleek ships with long range. Cannons dropped from hyperspace and fired without warning. Zyra held steady as Daniel jerked the ship through the chaos. This time she didn't wait to be told. She moved to the energy panel and placed her hands on it. Her light surged into the core. The ship roared with new power. The engines screamed. Daniel stared in awe. "You just gave me 10 times more thrust." "Not then fly," Zyra said. He flew. They outran the hunters through the debris of a dead colony. The enemy tried to follow but couldn't match their speed. One ship crashed into a satellite. The other lost control and spun into the void when it was over. Zyra collapsed onto the floor, panting. Daniel caught her. "You didn't burn out," he whispered. She smiled faintly. "I didn't hold back either." Daniel helped her sit up and looked into her eyes. "They're going to regret what they did to you." Zyra shook her head slowly. "No. They're going to regret what they did to all of us." And in that moment, Zyra stopped being just a survivor. She became the storm they feared was coming. Infiltrating the syndicate. The Aurochs Rift was a graveyard of broken ships and forgotten wars. It stretched like a deep scar across space, filled with sharp debris and shifting magnetic storms. Most pilots avoided it, but Daniel's ship cut through, the chaos with purpose. Hidden inside the rift's edge, spinning slowly like a giant black spider, was the furnace. Zyra stood in the cockpit beside Daniel, her arms folded, her jaw clenched. The furnace was larger than she imagined. Thick rings of dark metal floated around a glowing core. Energy pulsed in waves, and even from here, she could feel the suffering. It crawled up her spine. It was the same pulse that once lived in her. "Bones. They're inside," she whispered. "The children. I can feel them." Daniel didn't ask how. He had stopped questioning her instincts. Her power had grown sharper, quieter, more precise. She no longer flickered with energy. She commanded it now. He handed her a black suit lined with silver threads. "Wear this. It hides your signal and regulates your energy flow. If we're lucky, we walk in and out before anyone notices." Zyra put it on. It was lighter than expected, almost like a second skin. The moment it sealed, her glow vanished. Daniel suited up too. They slipped into a stolen syndicate pod and entered the outer docking ring, passing as maintenance techs. Zyra kept her head low, her mind focused. Inside, guards moved like machines. Cold and exact. Cameras tracked every step, but none of them looked at her twice. They didn't see the storm walking among them. As they passed a tall corridor, Zira suddenly stopped. A soft cry echoed in her mind. It was not sound. It was pain. Familiar and raw. She touched the wall and closed her eyes. "They're down here," she said. "Beneath the core." Daniel opened a hatch using the forged ID chip. They entered a service tunnel that led into darkness. The air smelled like heat and chemicals. The deeper they went, the heavier the silence became. Then they saw dozens of glass chambers lined the walls. Inside each one was a child. Small, glowing, and pale. Wires dug into their backs just like hers. Some were barely conscious. Some didn't move at all. Zira pressed her hand to the glass of the nearest pod. A little girl opened her eyes, confused and weak. "She's alive," Zira said. "Barely." Daniel moved fast. He scanned the chamber system and found the manual override. But the security alert would go off the moment he opened even one. "We can't get them all out fast enough," he muttered. Zira looked up. Her face was calm, but her eyes glowed with fire. "Then, I'll shut the whole system down." Before Daniel could stop her, she stepped into the heart of the chamber. Her body lit up, faint and steady. The machines reacted immediately. Lights blinked. Sirens started low, and Soft Zira placed both hands on the floor. Her energy flowed into the system like a tide. She wasn't just fighting the power. She was replacing it. The core that drew energy from the children now started drawing from her. The chambers hissed open one by one. The children inside gasped for air, falling weakly to the floor. Daniel moved between them, helping as many as he could. Some cried. Some could barely speak, but they were free. Zira's body trembled. The system pushed back, trying to contain her. But her power surged higher. Sparks burst from the walls. Screens cracked. She clenched her teeth and pushed harder. Then the main alarm screamed through the station. "We've got company," Daniel called out. "You need to pull back." Zira didn't move. She was glowing brighter now, her veins like rivers of light. The entire core was cracking under her touch. The station tried to shut her down, reroute power, lock her in place. But it was too late. "I'm not your battery," she growled through her teeth. "I'm your end." With a final burst, she shattered the central power link. The entire station went dark. For a moment, everything was silent. Then backup systems kicked in. Emergency. Lights flashed red. Heavy footsteps echoed above. The guards were coming fast. Daniel threw one child over his shoulder and pulled two more by hand. "Zira! Now!" She staggered back. Her vision blurred, but she nodded and turned. Together they moved through the emergency exit tunnels, leading the children out. A few older ones could walk. Others had to be carried. Zira lit the path ahead, guiding them like a star in the dark. They reached the hangar just as soldiers entered the lower halls. Daniel hit the remote. Their hidden escape pod powered up with a quiet hum. Zira helped the last child into the pod, then collapsed beside them. As the pod launched away from the furnace, Zira looked back one last time. The station flickered and sparked. It wasn't destroyed, but it was crippled. And more importantly, the children were free. Daniel sat beside her, his face bruised, his chest heaving. "We just painted a target the size of a planet on our backs." Zira leaned her head against the wall and whispered, "Good. Let them come," because now she knew the truth. She was not the girl in the chamber anymore. She was the light that burned through every cage. The power unleashed, Zira floated in a medical stasis tank aboard a safe house ship drifting through uncharted space. Her body had collapsed after the overload at the furnace, and even now, her energy fluctuated like a flickering star. Tubes ran along her arms, but they didn't steal from her. They gave her strength, Warmth flowed into her veins. Not pain, no longer drained, no longer used. This time, she was healing. Daniel stood outside the tank, arms crossed, watching her closely. He hadn't left her side in 3 days. Not since they escaped with the children. The pod had been overcrowded and slow, but every life was worth the risk. They were now safe on an old rebel outpost, hidden from syndicate scans by layers of magnetic dust and broken satellites. No signals went out. No signals came. And still, Daniel knew it wouldn't last. The syndicate had tasted failure, and they were furious. Not just because Zira had broken their machine. Not because she had escaped again. But because she had made them look weak. She had set a spark under their throne. And the fire was spreading. She woke on the 4th day. Her eyes opened slowly. No fear, no confusion this time. Just steady breathing. Daniel was there the moment she sat up. "I thought I burned out," she whispered. "You almost did," he replied. "But you're stronger now." She looked down at her arms. The glow had changed. It wasn't wild or uncontrolled. It pulsed with rhythm. Her energy no longer screamed. It sang. The other children, now recovering in nearby rooms, had started calling her Starfire. Some even smiled when they saw her. It made her chest feel heavy in a way she couldn't explain. "I want to see them," she said. Daniel nodded and helped her to her feet. Her legs were shaky, but she walked on her own. The children ran to her as soon as she entered. One boy hugged her leg. A girl showed her a drawing of Zira destroying the furnace, drawn in shaky crayon lines. "You're our hero," the girl said. Zira smiled, but her heart ached. "I didn't save all of you." Daniel put a hand on her shoulder. "But you tried, and now they believe they're worth saving. That matters." Suddenly, the base alarm rang out. Low, then louder. Daniel's smile vanished. He ran to the control room. Zira followed outside. Syndicate warships had broken through the orbital shield. Somehow, they had found them. Dozens of them. Big ones. Daniel stared at the monitor. They tracked our energy signature, probably hers. Zira clenched her fists. "They came for me. Then we get everyone out," Daniel said. "We'll launch the escape shuttles. I'll cover them." "No," Zira said quietly. "I'll cover them." Daniel turned. "You can't take on a fleet." "I'm not trying to fight them with fists," she said. "I'm going to give them what they built me for, but on my terms." He stared at her. "You'd burn yourself again?" Zira looked toward the sky. "I'm not burning out. I'm burning through." Minutes later, the evacuation began. Children were placed in shuttles. Caretakers activated emergency routes. Daniel stood at the rear gate, watching the sky darken as ships approached like metal storms, and above them, Zira rose. She wore no armor, only her flight suit and her energy. She stepped onto the roof of the outpost, alone, and raised both hands. The air around her changed. First, a pulse. Then, a hum. Then light. The glow from her skin brightened until it coated the roof in pure white. Her hair lifted. Her body hovered inches above the metal. Her veins shined like stars through her skin. The enemy ships stopped midair, scanning in confusion. Then she let go. A wave of energy blasted upward, not as a beam, but as a wall. It crashed into the first row of ships, shorting their power systems. They dropped like stones. The second wave followed. Zira's body burned with silver fire. She screamed, not from pain, but from freedom. Daniel watched in awe. She wasn't just strong. She was beautiful. A force of nature wrapped in the shape of a girl. She moved through the air like a comet, dodging missiles, disabling ships with touches of raw light. The sky itself bent around her. The Syndicate tried to fire back, but their systems failed one by one. Every energy weapon redirected. Every scanner blinded. Zyra wasn't just using power. She was rewriting it. As the last shuttle left the base, Daniel called out to her, "It's done. They're safe. You can come back." She turned in the air and slowly descended. Her body steamed. Her light dimmed. She landed on her feet and staggered toward him. He caught her before she fell. "You didn't stop them." He whispered, "I didn't have to." She replied, "They stopped themselves when they made me." And high above, the Syndicate ships, what was left of them, turned and retreated. They had faced the weapon they thought they created and learned it had a heart of its own, one that no longer belonged to them. The hero they didn't expect. Weeks had passed since the Syndicate's fleet fled the Oryx Rift. Across outer colonies and silent moons, stories spread like wildfire. Not just of a battle, but of a girl made of light who stood against warships and survived. Some called her a weapon. Others called her a warning. But to the children she saved, Zyra was something else entirely. She was hope the safe house had moved. Daniel had taken the children and caretakers to a quiet agricultural world, where the sky was always golden and the air was clean. Zyra spent her mornings helping the youngest ones learn to walk again. Their bodies were still weak, but their laughter came easily now. One afternoon, she sat by the river, her feet in the water, her eyes closed as the current moved over her skin. The energy inside her no longer buzzed or pulled. It flowed softly like the river itself. She wasn't hiding it anymore. She wasn't suppressing it. Daniel sat beside her, handing her a metal flask. She smiled as she took it. "They sleep better now," she said. "The nightmares are fading." "They trust you," Daniel replied. "You gave them their lives back." Zyra looked at him serious. "You gave me mine back." He said nothing at first. Then, quietly, "You saved me too." A long silence passed between them. The river kept flowing. A bird chirped from a nearby tree. For a rare moment, everything felt normal, peaceful. But they both knew the galaxy hadn't forgotten that night. An urgent message came through Daniel's private comms, a signal buried in code, a distress call from an old resistance leader named Varek. His voice cracked through the static. "The Syndicate is regrouping. They've built a new facility, not for energy harvesting, for cloning. They're trying to copy her, to mass produce what she is." Zyra's heart tightened. Her face went cold. "They want to make more of me?" Daniel's jaw clenched. "No, they want to make copies they can control." She stood up slowly. "Then I have to stop it." He didn't argue this time. He knew her mind was already set. But he placed a small device in her hand, a silver pendant shaped like a sun. "What's this?" she asked. "A beacon. If anything happens, I'll come for you." She smiled and slipped it around her neck. "You always do." The cloning facility was hidden inside a hollow asteroid. The entrance was guarded by autocannons and thick radiation clouds. But Zyra didn't sneak in this time. She walked through the front gate. Alarms blared. Troops rushed in. Plasma weapons fired at once. She caught the blasts mid-air, bent them, absorbed them, then shattered the weapons into dust with a blink of light. The guards screamed and fled. She didn't chase. She had one goal. In the heart of the asteroid, she found rows of tanks, each one filled with a copy of herself. But their eyes were dull, empty. Their bodies glowed faintly, but their faces were lifeless. "This isn't life," she whispered. "This is theft." From behind her, a deep voice echoed. "You could have ruled with us." Zyra turned. A tall Syndicate Baron stepped forward, one of the architects behind the furnace. His armor gleamed and his eyes burned with false pride. "You were supposed to be our key to power," he said. "Not a rebel." Zira walked toward him without fear. "You made me a tool," she said, "but I turned into something you'll never understand." He pulled a weapon, an energy staff glowing with stolen power. He struck at her, but the moment it touched her arm, it shattered like glass. She grabbed his wrist, and his armor flickered. "Out! No more cages," she said softly. A burst of light filled the chamber. When it cleared, the Baron lay unconscious, and every tank in the room had gone dark. She had shut it all down. The clones wouldn't be used, and no child would be born into chains again. When she returned to the surface, Daniel was already there, waiting by the ship. She ran into his arms, and for the first time, she didn't feel like energy or light or a weapon. She felt human. Back on the peaceful planet, the children greeted her with cheers and hugs. They didn't care about battles. They only cared that she came back later that night. Under the stars, Zira sat by the fire as Daniel placed a soft blanket over her shoulders. "So," he asked, "what do we do now?" Zira looked up at the sky, her eyes glowing faintly. "We teach them." "Teach them what?" She smiled gently, that no one was born to be a battery. And far above, in the endless dark, the galaxy whispered her name again. But this time, not in fear, in honor. Zira, the girl they used. Zira, the girl who rose. Zira, the hero they never saw coming.